Hello, welcome to another video. Been a while. Okay, I was given a USB stick when I was at work to repair, try and get working again. And what I noticed was, well, the end socket had already been smashed off, but I had a look underneath the board, and what you notice on there is there's all these gold test pins. So basically, what I needed to do um, was work out what pins did what, because I only needed the four, so I needed ground, 5 volt, and the two data pins. Um, don't have a close up of the underside of the board really low before I started putting it together to show. Um, but what I did was I got the meter, multimeter, and done a ohms test between one of the four pins, and I found a grounding point on the board. And when you do that, you basically work out that one of the four test points is your ground, so you're already ahead there. Your two data pins generally live right next to each other. They're on the board somewhere. Once you've got those two, the 5 volt one's usually the only one that's left. So what I did here, basically I put or I tinned the four pads so that you had somewhere for the wire to attach to. So basically what I'm doing is rerouting the wire, or using the wire to reroute the four USB pins to the plug, which was still intact. So I could just solder directly to the back of them, the back of the four ports. So what I do is I get 4 bits of wire, strip them, tin them, just so that they're ready to accept solder points on the board without too much mucking around. And then, yeah, pretty much just join them up between the dots, or the test dots, or test points, and to the other side of the board where the socket is, and just solder straight to the back. Now, the video is probably a bit long, but this is pretty much the whole process that I went through. I won't sort of voice over the whole thing. You can see what's happening there anyway. When it gets to at the end of the video, you can actually see it working. This seems to be true for most USB memory sticks, because when they make these things, instead of inserting the plug at the into their test jig, which will eventually wear out the USB port pretty quick on their test unit, they just do tests on the board as it is on what's basically a test bed with a bunch of little pins that poke up. So they press the USB stick onto it, and it runs a quick check just to make sure it all still, make sure it works, so there's no issues there. And then they package it up and send it on, which is a pretty neat idea, and it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to do that if you're doing hundreds of thousands of these things than to individually grab a stick, plug it into a USB port, check it, unplug it, plug it in, and unplug it. Your standard USB socket on most computers, or any computer, is only rated for about 1,000 insertions. That's if they last that long, because they're quite fragile and easy to damage anyway. But yeah, by using the test points, or by having the test points there, it makes repairing these things relatively easy. Your biggest challenge, honestly, is actually finding out which of the pins do the jobs that you want. But your power and your ground are always on opposite sides, so that's easy enough. And your data lines are what's called a differential pair, with the way they signal. So they to maintain data integrity, they actually signal equal but opposite to each other. So the two pins have to be co-located, and they always go to the same the little chip on the other side of the board. So it's usually not too hard to find out which two pins do what. And once you work that out, you're pretty much ahead anyway. So yeah, this is just sort of a how I did it sort of thing. I mean, I was doing it at work, so I couldn't. I had the camera running, but I couldn't really position in a way that was too suspicious. Just because it looks a bit sus when you're doing this while you're working on a customer's product. So, but at the end of the day, this customer had some important data on here, as you do, and it was his only copy. So, by doing this, I managed to rescue all his data, and yeah, the stick went back together as I finished it, and he probably still has it, I don't know. But we ended up transferring his data off of the stick as soon as it was available, or as soon as it worked, and then copied all that back to a brand new USB stick. So hopefully next time he won't use it as his only storage method, and he'll have a copy somewhere else. But as with these things, people get a bit lazy with them. In the only time you really care about whether they work or not, it's about the time after you just snapped them in half. So, yeah, you got to be a bit delicate with these things. I mean, it's not that hard to sort of have it in the front of your computer and you accidentally smack it with your knee and that sort of thing. It's just how they are. Ease of access generally means they go somewhere where it's not easy for you to just grab intentionally, but also unintentionally to bump and destroy these things. But anyway, yeah, it's just a bit of me fiddling around there, just putting it together, and eventually it does work. So what I found was, because I didn't know which way the differential pins worked, I put it all together and plugged it in, and when nothing happened, I just desoldered the two differential pins and swapped them over, and up it came. But yeah, so he was really lucky with this one, but it looks like this is quite a reliable fix for getting results on these things. I used to try and actually fix the little tracks as they come out the back of the socket, just with a small Stanley blade, just to scrape them off, just so I can basically reattach a little bit of wire across the top between the track and the USB socket, or if the USB socket was dead, actually use a USB header or just a header and 4 wires straight to the USB stick, and then push it straight onto a motherboard USB header, and most of the time that'd come up. But sometimes the fix wasn't either accurate enough or reliable enough, which meant you either shorted it out or smoke came out. But I kind of like this method better. It gets the job done. But yeah, anyway, hopefully if you're watching this and you're needing to perform this task, you may be able to use this process to repair your own. Bye.